All right, welcome back to day two of the Life Coach Intro course. Let's jump right in to how to build trust with your clients. And we're going to look at three different areas within this. First, we're going to kind of explore why is this important? Why is building trust with clients such an important factor of being a great life coach? Also, we're going to look at effective verbal communication that is so important, as well as nonverbal communication, because they both play a key role in how well you do in building trust with the clients that you work with. So, first, let's look at why is building trust important? Well, number one is that clients will feel very comfortable in sitting down with you and talking with you. Now, life coaching occurs over the phone, it can occur over email, and it can also occur in person. And so, a lot of life coaches may want to start off working with people in person, or they may want to start off working with people over the phone. That's fine. But many life coaches end up doing both. So let's just kind of take it as if you are working with someone in person when I go through these different areas. So helping clients feel comfortable is so very important because they're going to see you as someone who can help. Just think about it. When you've been around a professional or someone that you've first met, and you didn't feel comfortable, well, how much did you open up? Well, you probably didn't open up very much, and you probably were very reserved and just kind of minimally shared. And so that's how it works with you as a life coach and your clients, is that you want them to be able to open up and share as much as possible, because that gives you more information to be able to help them. And then, so you're getting all that information. They're trusting you, so they see you as someone who can really help them. Because, you think about when you've been to the doctor, or you're looking for someone even to help fix your cell phone or your computer. You kind of looking for clues that tells you, okay, this person, he or she knows what they're doing, and they can help me. And so your clients are also doing the same with you as a life coach. Now, once you build a very good, solid kind of base level of trust with your client, they're more likely to stay engaged in coaching, meaning that they're going to be coming to you session after session. They're going to be rescheduling for more sessions, and that's a wonderful thing. If you have a client who comes and maybe they only speak with you for one session and then they never come back, well, I mean, it could mean a variety of things. However, if you're building that solid foundation of trust with them, then they're more likely to schedule for that second, that third, that fourth, that fifth, and then going into months, maybe even years. There are some clients who stay with their life coaches for years, and they continue to work with them on a weekly basis. And so the reason they did that is because they trust their life coach. Also, when you're working with the client, you're giving them follow-up activities and assignments and homework that's going to help them in those issues that they're struggling with. And if they see you as being someone who's trustworthy, then they're going to do anything that you give them. If you tell them to go outside and to start jumping rope, they're going to go, okay, I'll do it because I trust you. Now, if you do tell someone to jump rope, there better be a reason behind it. But anyway, that was just kind of an example of your clients will follow you anywhere, and they'll do anything that you ask of them if they trust you. So that's why this is so important. Also, your client who loves the work that you do, your client who trusts you like no one else, will refer you to other people. So then, not only will you have someone who keeps coming to you for many, many sessions, many months, maybe even many years, but then they start recommending you to their friends, to their coworkers, to their acquaintances, to their family. And so then you start building up all of these people who were referred to you by one person who really trusted you. So you could see why building trust is so important in a life coach relationship. Now, let's look at verbal communication. Being a life coach means that you really have to have great communication skills, verbally and non-verbally, but we're going to tackle the non-verbal in just a moment. But let's just stay focused on verbal communication. One of the biggest things when you're talking to your clients is to be mindful of your tone of voice. So if I'm talking to you like this, and this is, many people can kind of relate and they kind of get engaged with a tone like this. But hey, if you're talking like this and you're really loud and just annoying, your tone of voice could really turn people off. So you want to find a really good, soothing tone of voice. Not too high pitched, not too excited, but not so down and out as well. So you want to find a good tone and a good pace as well, because that's going to help engage those clients who are with you. Also, using clear language. Many times when we're trying to explain something, we know in our heads what we're trying to say, but then when it comes out of our mouths, it may be very confusing, either because we've tried to talk around the world about it, we've added too much, we didn't make it simple enough. Just use clear language in making your points with your client, because they're going to stay more engaged. But if they have to listen to you for 30 minutes to try to figure out what it is that you're asking or that you're trying to relay or trying to teach, they're going to be disengaged. So be as clear as you can in the language that you use. Also limit your use of any kind of fancy life coaching terminology that you may pick up from your coaching certification program. You're going to learn lots of new terms and you're just going to love it, because you're like, oh, I never knew about that before. Now I've got this fancy term that means this. And it's almost like a club where you've got this terminology that only life coaches know. But then when you use that with your clients, it kind of turns them off because they may not know what you're talking about. And also you have to look at the reason that you're trying to use some of this fancy terminology. Is it because you're trying to impress them? We don't really need to impress them with the use of our words. We're using these really, really big words. No, you should be able to break it down into very simplistic terms in which they can understand. So we want to kind of leave that stuff out. So even though, and it's takes practice, because you may have learned something and it just seems like, oh, that word's not really, a big deal, or it's not that fancy or whatnot. Just kind of think about the language that you use and just try to, if it's something that is more cliquish to only what life coaches would know, then certainly maybe don't use that. Or if you're going to use a word that's kind of a bigger word within the life coaching industry, then educate your client on it. You can certainly do that. You can, throw that word out there and say, hey, this is what this means. And so they may enjoy that. And so if you just use it and then you kind of skip past it and you don't really explain it, they may get lost and just not follow you. And that could be a real issue. But educating them is certainly fine. Speak confidently. If you're someone who lacks confidence, well, there are ways that you could build that up. But when you're working with clients, you need to be able to show that you are someone that knows what you're talking about. And you're very confident in the skills that you have and that you can help that person. And many times that comes out in our voice, in our verbal communication. You've met people throughout life, and the way that they talk, they're like, this person really doesn't believe what they're saying, and I don't know if they're really even that skilled. So, and a lot of it, they didn't really show you that they didn't know. It was just how they were speaking. So remember to speak confidently. Also, one of the biggest things that life coaches kind of fall into, it's a trap, is they think that they have to have all the answers, or their clients are going to think that they don't know what they're talking about, or they're not skilled enough to be able to work with them. And certainly we can't be expected to have all the answers from all of our clients. Even if you've been working in the field for many, many years, even a decade, you may not still have all the answers that your clients, are seeking. And when you're asked a question, Here's one of the best ways to respond to a question that you don't know. You can, let's say that they ask you about maybe it's a medical condition that's outside of your realm of education and teaching, and you may say, that's a great question. However, I don't know about that at the moment, but let me get back to you with an answer for you in our next session. So I'll do a little research and I'll get back to you. They will respect that much more than if you try to pretend that you have all the answers. And so certainly don't do that. So, and it doesn't look bad at all for you to say, you know what, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a great question. I often like to preface it with, that's a great question, but I don't have the answer at the moment. However, let me do some research and I'll get back to you in the next session and we'll talk about it. And so they will respect you. And again, that goes into building trust, and they will trust you more if you're open and honest about what you know and what you don't know. Let's look at nonverbal communication. And this is one that takes a little bit of practice from coaches as you are a new coach. Many times we've been just acting and reacting in the world and as ourselves without much thought about how other people look at us as far as, non-verbally. One of the biggest things that your clients are going to notice is your eye contact. What kind of eye contact do you have with clients? And that's really important. Now, you don't want to have like a glaze, really staring down a client, but you want to be comfortable in being able to look in your client's eyes and focus on what they're saying. Sometimes coaches they're not skilled or they're not confident in their skills and what they're doing and in the client's issues and being able to help them, they may not have really good contact with that client. And so, they may kind of avoid contact. And so you don't want to do that. You want to be able, when your client is talking, you want to be able to look at them and to maintain that eye contact. Also using hand gestures. And again, if you're in a session with a client where you're face to face, again, all of this comes into play. Eye contact also comes into play when you're using, let's say, your iPhone and you're seeing each other on your iPhones, where you're doing the video chat. So eye contact comes into play, also hand gestures with that. But if you're on the phone and you're just speaking, you can't see each other, then of course eye contact and hand gestures don't come into play. But there are times when you will do video chats or you'll be in face to face where this comes into play. But getting back to hand gestures, many times we can make a point with our hands as strongly as what we say with our voice. And so being able to use really good hand gestures at times that are appropriate are okay. And it kind of shows that something that you're saying is powerful or very important. It helps kind of to solidify your point many times using hand gestures. And then there are times when you don't want to get too busy with your hands. Sometimes when life coaches become nervous, they start talking too much with their hands. And so there's an overuse of hand gestures, and it becomes very distracting to the clients who are in front of them. So you have to kind of tone it down if you're a nervous person or anxious in front of people. You want to watch your hand gestures so you're not overusing them. But also, if you're trying to make a point, many times hand gestures can help kind of confidently support the verbal communication that you use. Body positioning is one where that says a lot about a person. So as a client who is looking at you as a life coach, they're going to interpret your body language many times unconsciously. So if you're someone who your shoulders are slumped, you're kind of leaned, or maybe when you're sitting in front of a client, you're leaning back and your shoulders are slumped, they may interpret that in a variety of ways. They could interpret it as, maybe you're relaxed, or they may interpret it as someone who is not confident and not engaged. So let's say that a client is in your presence or sitting in front of you, and they're sharing a very deep story about something, their child, something that's going on with their spouse, and it's very emotional. Many times, leaning forward just a little bit gives this nonverbal communication that you're really engaged, that you're really interested in what they're saying. And it's very subtle, it's very slight, but it makes all the difference because unconsciously a client will pick up on that and they will give you more and more information. So your body positioning really says a lot. It also says a lot about your confidence. If you're able to sit and have really good posture, you're sitting straight up. So there are many different ways that body positioning can, work against you or, help you in a session. Not looking at the clock. Our sessions and working with clients are timed. And so you may have a 30-minute session, you may have a 40-minute session, a 50-minute session, or exactly an hour session, whatever it might be. Yeah, you're going to want to keep an eye on the clock because if you have an hour session, you don't want to go an hour and 15, right? But you don't want to keep looking at your clock, either glancing down or looking away off to the side, because that can be very distracting. And then your client is thinking, oh, well, you're not engaged. So if I have a face-to-face session, say in a designated office space, many times I have a clock behind them. So if I'm looking at them over their shoulder, I can see the clock. So looking at it at a distance, they don't know I'm even looking at it. I'm just kind of glazing over their shoulder, which I may do while they're talking anyway. And so they're not seeing you look at your clock. If you're in a position where you don't have that, you need to really become aware that what the time is in a session. Sometimes time can go by really quick or time can go by really slow depending on how well the session is going. So if you have to look at it, you could apologize and you can say, oh, excuse me for a second, and just look, but get back to it. But don't really make it a habit. You should really get really good at being able, to judge the time within a session or position a clock somewhere where you can look where it doesn't seem kind of weird that you're turning away while they're talking. Also, I've noticed a lot, and I see this with students when I'm teaching them skills and things. They're checking their phones a lot. If you go out to eat, my wife and I and my son went out to a restaurant just last night, and I looked around at all the tables, and it seems like everybody is on their phone, checking their email, or scrolling through you know Facebook or whatever it might be while they're eating. So many people have kind of built that into their lives. But when you're a life coach and you're working with someone, you should not be checking your phone, for messages and it sounds silly and you may be thinking, Tim, come on, who's going to be doing that? It happens. It certainly happens, and especially even in role play with students who are, trying to learn these skills. And I'll see them look at their phone while they're during role play, and I'm like, I hope you never do that while you're really working with a client. So the reason I bring it up again is because it's become part of our everyday life where everybody is just on their phone so much, and it's hard to break that kind of habit. But when you are in your role as a life coach, certainly should never be checking your phone at any time. So I hope that these were very helpful in helping you to learn how you can build a really good foundation of trust with your clients. Tomorrow and day 3, we're going to look at some basic coaching skills. I'll see you there.